You're watching breaking news here on ABC News Live. I'm Ike Kajachi. Minneapolis local officials just holding a press conference following a fatal shooting involving a federal agent in Minneapolis. DHS officials say an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm handgun. They say officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the suspect, quote, violently resisted. Investigative reporter Olivia Rubin is here. We just heard from Chief Brian O'Hara of the Minneapolis Police Department. He took us through several of these steps from what they happened. He said that he got the call at 9:03 a.m. Of a report of a shooting involving the feds. They identified the victim as a 37-year-old white male from Minneapolis. And I want to point out something, too. He said that he was a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry. So take us through just your reaction from the press conference we just heard there, not only from the mayor, but obviously from Chief Brian O'Hara as well.
Well, critically, they're saying they know who this individual is, but they're not releasing that yet. You did say 37-year-old white male. He's believed to be a resident and believed to be an American citizen. We do have the information from DHS saying that these were defensive shots, of course, saying that this individual was armed. But very critically here, Ike, what the local officials, local police in Minneapolis are saying is that they don't know yet, in their opinion, what happened to lead up to this incident. Of course, in the previous incident of Renee Good being killed, there was significant disagreement about what happened there on both sides. So there is the DHS version that they have put in the statement. But police in Minneapolis are saying that they have only seen the video circulating online and that they don't have sort of an official firsthand account, in their opinion, in their investigative skills of what happened leading up here to this incident. So that's going to be significant. But what they are also saying is that there is an extremely volatile scene where this occurred right now. They are asking people to leave that scene. They are asking people to stay away from that scene. And they are asking people to remain calm, to remain peaceful. And in the words of the mayor, once again, renewing that request for the president to remove ICE out of the city, although it doesn't seem to be anything that the administration has had an appetite for quite yet, Ike.
Yeah, again, we heard Chief Brian O'Hara there say that people should remain peaceful. And he also called what's going on right now an unlawful assembly at that area, obviously where the crime scene happened. He's asking people to leave the area at the moment and requested aid from Minnesota, State Police and other adjacent agencies. I want to bring in Robert Boyce. He's a former NYPD chief of detectives. We just heard that this victim was, in fact, a gun owner. He had that permit on him. He was lawful in terms of his gun ownership. How significant is that going to be in the investigation moving forward?
I think it's a fact and it has to be considered as well, but it's not overly conclusive. We don't know too much more about this individual, and Chief O'Hara gave a lot of information today. Let's start with unlawful assembly, which you called on. That's a crime. It's a misdemeanor. If you don't leave after several requests to leave, you can be arrested. I don't see that happening here, but it also has to be considered. And the good news is that Minneapolis Police Department is on the scene. So now that someone has to broker an agreement. Also, BCA, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, who does their police investigations, they're on the scene as well. So everybody's there. Now we have to have everybody talking. As far as an individual gun ownership, there's some estimates of 500 million guns in this country. So a lot of people have them. It's unclear his actions with that gun, what this individual did. We know he's identified, he's 37 years old, and what his social media has to be looked at as well before they identify him. His home will at some point be searched for other information by the feds, for that matter. So we have to know more facts. We've seen one video that's out there. I've only seen one. And so you don't go by that. Obviously, and the good shooting taught us that multiple videos are important to view before you make an assessment of anything. Everything should be preliminary at this time. I didn't hear that in the press conference by anybody. This is preliminary information. Comes out, it turns out it's not true later on. That's why we say preliminary in these things. So it's really, the chief gave a lot of information as to what the police department is doing there, and their efforts are not one of conciliatory with ICE. That has to be spoken to as well.
I want to bring in Elizabeth Newman. She's a former State Department official. We just heard that from Chief Brian O'Hara that they're going to get, they're requesting several agencies right now, not just from the Minnesota State Police, but also from adjacent agencies in that area. What will those law enforcement officers be called on to do at this moment? Again, we heard Chief O'Hara call the protesters that are gathering in that area right now an unlawful assembly. So what will those added agencies, those added law enforcement officers be expected to do at this moment?
Well, in a moment like this, the top priority is getting everybody to disperse, to try to create a calm in a moment that is extremely tense, very volatile. You also heard the chief acknowledge that everybody had the right to be angry. He wasn't suggesting that by declaring it an unlawful gathering that it was somehow unjustified that people are angry, but rather the job of local police, the job of state police is to maintain the peace and stability of the community. And right now, with so many angry people gathered, it's just too volatile. Something can go further wrong. And obviously, we've already had a tragedy today. So they're just trying to prevent further tragedies. And that is their job, is to maintain the peace and security of their community. They're bringing in those backup law enforcement officers. That's just a normal part of how we do homeland security in this country. When your forces are overwhelmed or you have too much, perhaps I would imagine that given the circumstances of the last few weeks, their officers have been probably pulling multiple shifts beyond what they normally do, and everybody's tired. It's not great to have tired law enforcement in a volatile situation. So you call upon your neighbors and adjacent communities to help provide backup and ensure that you can get to that calm situation. I didn't hear anything that suggested that they're trying to prevent people from exercising their First Amendment rights. There's a moment on the other side of decompressing the tension right now where people can go back to doing lawful protests. It's just that this particular moment, when you have an investigation, when tensions are so high, they need people to disperse so that they can make sure that everybody stays safe, and get to that other moment later when they can rejoin in their protests in a lawful assembly.
All right, I want to go to Luke Barr. He's our justice reporter here at ABC News. Luke, you just heard the press conference from Chief of Police Brian O'Hara over there in Minneapolis, along with this mayor. What's the latest reporting that we're getting right now involving this situation?
Yeah, so we heard from the Department of Homeland Security and we heard from the local authorities there in Minneapolis. Let's try and put this together for everybody at home. So we heard from DHS. They say that the person involved in this morning's shooting has died. The chief there confirmed it was a 37-year-old white man who appeared, according to the chief, to have a permit to carry a firearm. Now, much beyond that, we don't know from the chief, but DHS is saying that there was a struggle of some kind and that this person approached Border Patrol, according to this statement here from DHS, with a semi-automatic handgun. Now, officers, according to DHS, attempted to disarm this individual, but the suspect, quote, violently resisted. And fearing for their life, an officer discharged a firearm. Now, you heard from the chief, who said it was multiple law enforcement officers that were involved in this shooting. And it's interesting, I just want to make one other point, which is that the chief said that the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which is sort of the Minnesota equivalent of the FBI, was on scene. But if we remember, they were cut out of the Renee Good shooting investigation by federal authorities. So it will be interesting to see if they actually do continue to work this investigation jointly with the FBI, or if there's any cooperation between the state and local authorities at all, Ike.